Auburn beat A&M yesterday 13-10. Someone out there already just said, who cares? I'm going to tell you why you should care. A lot of you should care. What a wild scene in Auburn last night. If you're not an Auburn fan or an A&M fan, you may very well have just missed this game totally. It may have been completely off your radar. And even if you're a more diehard college football fan, but you didn't see this game, the totality of your impression of this is probably you seeing some clips of Cadillac Williams with our buddy Cole Kubelik in the post-game interview. That's probably all you saw of this game. Well, don't worry, we watched it for you. To give you a little backstory, Auburn was dead in the water as a program this year. Totally lifeless. And Harsin is fired, and a lot of the staff is gone. It's the usual case when you have a staff upheaval. And it doesn't look like the program's going anywhere, and then you got a coaching search, and they named Cadillac Williams, former All-American running back there, first-round draft pick. They named him the interim head coach. And it didn't get a lot of national news. He's the first black head coach at Auburn, and that got national news. But outside of that, no one looked at it and thought anything football-wise other than, okay, he's just a stopgap, and we'll see where Auburn goes from there. And that is about where the national attention ended. It's not where it ended for the locals. It's where it began. So they end up going on the road, and last week, you know, they have played competitively for a while. In fact, Colin, can you show me Auburn's schedule right quick? Because I want to kind of tee this up before I get into this game. They've played against Georgia already. They got blown out. They went to Ole Miss. They played. So then you're looking down the list a little bit. You know when Harsin got fired there. They go to Mississippi State last week. And they were very competitive. They lost 39-33. Okay? So that's what big deal, right? They showed more fight that day than they have pretty much all year. And it galvanized the fan base. And this is one of the beautiful parts of college football. And if I don't watch myself here, if I'm not careful, I will talk about this for 30 minutes. So I promise I'm not going to, because we got like a dozen more games to get to. You need to know about Auburn, though, right now. The fan base, fully engaged. There were tons of emotion last night. It was an electric atmosphere, and they go into last night 3-6. Head coach is already fired, and it is a scene that probably confused casuals to the ends of the earth, because there's not a playoff spot on the line. They are not playing for the SEC championship. There's not postseason ramifications. So why are you people so worked up? Well, they're worked up because they care about the program. They're worked up because the passion that you see when college football is at its best is not necessarily because there are postseason implications on the line. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. But college football, what it's really about is a group of people looking at a brand, in this case that Auburn brand, and it meaning something to them, regardless of what the record is. And the reason the folks at Auburn are so worked up is because the guy who is leading them in an interim capacity right now, you cut him open, that's what he believes. He is one of them. And it's not necessarily an endorsement to make him the head coach for the next 15 years, but it's just nice to watch a guy pull something out of a program that previously hadn't been seen, and pull something out of a team and make them show heart, fight, resolve that no one had seen this year. And a lot of folks down there are very appreciative for it. And that's why if you turned on that game and you closed your eyes, if you stood on the field last night and you closed your eyes, you would have had no clue what the record was. In fact, you would have thought that a playoff spot was on the line. I go back and watch the game. Auburn wins the thing 13-10. Wasn't exactly pleasing to the eye. Jim Ross would call it bowling shoe ugly, as a matter of fact. But it was another spectacular scene post-game. I would suggest you go watch the post-game interviews and whatnot. But I had some people texting me afterwards saying, yeah, it's good for Cadillac Williams, but I mean, obviously this is not going to have a happy ending. I have no clue what that means. I think what they mean is they don't believe he's going to get the job. Well, I don't either. I'm not making the hire down there, of course. I don't either, but it already had a happy ending. If you hit the stop button right now, it already had a happy ending. He galvanized the program. I don't think people understand what's happened down there. Cadillac Williams has taken a program that wasn't even on life support. It was buried as far as this year is concerned. And you've gotten fight and you've gotten heart out of a team that has no business showing it. and had long since been written off regionally and nationally. And he's not a stranger to the program. He's one of theirs. That means a lot. That means something to those folks. It would mean a lot to you if this was happening with your program. But if you hit the stop button right now, he's accomplished enough to warrant serious consideration for having a fixture position on that staff. And I'm not in the business of ever endorsing conditions being put on a new head coach. I don't even care who the new head coach is. You'd be a fool to look at what's happened there right now and look at what this has meant to that locker room and not understand that guy's got to have a place here. Whatever place he would fill, you won't find a better successor for that role if you do a national search because of what he means to Auburn. And that's where you're going to be the head coach. So speaking of that head coaching search, and I got some thoughts on A&M in a second. I talked to a lot of people about this thing over the weekend, a lot of really dialed in folks. Here's what I think about the Auburn coaching search right now. I think Lane Kiffin is very much in this. I think those reports are accurate, and I think that he is very much a contender and a candidate for this job. I have major doubts that Hugh Freeze is a candidate for this job. Would be surprised to shocked if Hugh Freeze landed the Auburn job for a number of reasons that are well known within SEC circles, not all of which are known publicly. And I'm speaking more administratively. I don't mean some super secret scandal that no one knows about. I think Hugh Freeze's misdeeds are very, very publicized and well known, and I'm not sitting here trying to hold it against the guy. I'm just saying there are consequences for actions, and some of those are not easily forgotten or forgiven administratively. Let me leave it at that. I think there are at least two really big names out there that would move the needle to 10 that no one's talking about. I think that John Cohen is moving behind the scenes really quickly. I don't think you're going to have to wait a long time, but I don't believe that everything is as it looks on the surface. Some of the very high-profile candidates that you've heard about, like Kiffin, I believe are in this thing. I think there are some names, at least two, that are in this that would be headline news that no one's talking about. So, in other words, watch out for those hot boards out there. Watch out for those lists because as we've seen, oftentimes in coaching searches, who in the world was predicting Brian Kelly to LSU? I mean, the most dialed-in LSU insiders, when they were giving you their list, whose list had Brian Kelly on it? I think this coaching search could go that way, is my point. So, could be Kiffin, in which case no one would be surprised, or it could be fill in the blank, in which case everyone would be surprised, including the places that those respective individuals may be at right now. Jimbo and Texas A&M. What do we say here? What do we say? Never in my worst nightmares for this program this year, in my absolute worst of worst case scenarios, I never thought they'd miss a bowl game. They're going to miss a bowl game. To give you an idea of how bad this year has been, UConn, Jim Mora's UConn Huskies are going bowling and A&M will not. A&M has the worst record in the SEC. They are 3-7. Vandy is 4-6. That's how bad things are at Texas A&M right now. Now, I told you about a month ago. In fact, what was it? Coming out of the Bama game, I think. Yeah, coming out of the Bama game, I told you. Well, out of the South Carolina game. Goodness, it's tough to look at that graphic. Loss. That's a lot of losses in a row. Anyway, coming out of the South Carolina game, which was a month ago now, I told you this season's dead for Texas A&M. So what I wasn't going to do was continue to do a new autopsy every week. When it's dead, it's dead. And I'm going to do one autopsy, and we assignated the blame that week, and I told you it is a certainty that he has to make a move at offensive coordinator. I have had conversations in the past week that make me really, really confident he understands that, and he is going to do that, and the checkbook will be wide open, so theoretically that he could go get anyone who's willing to come there. Having said that, there's some weird energy around the program right now. A&M fans who follow it day to day, they know nationally you probably picked up on it. Let me just give you an example. I am all about rules. I'm all about structure. That's fine. Moose Muhammad didn't play last night for them. Jimbo said it's an internal thing. Moose Muhammad said, no, it ain't internal. Here's why. I wore long sleeves and he didn't start me because it's his rule that I don't wear long sleeves. The problem is I can go find you film this year of Moose Muhammad wearing long sleeves in games. So it may be a recent rule, I don't know. The point is, that is one little example of a little small mountain of examples now of just these weird things that you hear out of the A&M program, to where it almost is like if you were to take both middle fingers and throw them up in the air in full DGAF mode. Kids, teach the parents the acronym there. It's not too dissimilar to how Jimbo acts right now. So I don't even acknowledge the firing talk. I don't acknowledge the hot seat talk. It's not where we are right now. Something outside of the realm of football would have to enter the equation for that to even be a conversation this year for me. And I'm not saying it has. I'm just saying it feels weird. It's one thing to just suck. That program sucks right now. That team does, at least. And it also feels weird around the program. So I don't really know what to make of it. But as far as football goes, I feel no different than I did a few weeks back. The season was dead on arrival then. It is still dead on arrival. It doesn't matter how much you try and resuscitate it. Dead is dead is dead. No new autopsy every week. But it's going to be a very, very interesting December and January around there. You won't have to worry about bowls, so you will be able to get to work immediately following the LSU game in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video, and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me. That's how we keep this entire thing free.